Hey guys, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. Wanted to do a trade review for ES and NQ today and kind of go through the process that I drive through with my members in hopes that it helps both people who are in the room and not in the room kind of figure out what's going on today. So the first thing I want to start with, so just real quick, past performance is not indicative of future results. Trading derivatives carries substantial risk. You can lose a lot of money. Trading with discipline, emotional and financial discipline is very, very important. And you got to know what your setup looks like. So let's jump in. This is going to focus on our process, which is a combination of looking at the profile and looking at the waves that set up our trades and then identifying the day type. So number one, on most Mondays and Fridays, if you look, the type of days you end up with are like this. Here, let me erase these lines real quick. This is the ES profile. I have no idea how I just changed this, but I'm going to stop this real quick and change this back to a 1 minute chart. Wow, I did not mean to do that. Cancel. Wow, I might have just goofed this right out of the gate. Hold on 1 second here. Let's see how bad we mess this up. And I think I can actually find out 2 seconds here. Switch over to another profile. Let's see here. Maybe not. Maybe NQ. There's NQ. There's ES. And this will just take a second because it's just going to load it. So I'm sorry for the delay. The point is, on a day like today, right, it's tough because the shorts have gotten extremely easy, right? That's one of the difficult parts is when the shorts get easy and the counter rallies are so severe, it's hard to survive in this area. And that's what causes market traders to both have huge gains, but then give back everything that they've made either in prior days or in prior sessions. There we go. So now this is all fresh and new. I can hit the line I wanted to hit. And so the number one thing that I look at, we had a balanced day. So I'm going to define balanced day for you, right? We weren't able to make any progress up, progress down, and we closed right in the middle, hence balance, right? And on balanced days, you want to try to trade on the edges. If you look at what the issue is here, number one, there's two clear targets. We have a clear target above, which are what's called naked volume points of control and TPO points of control. You want to learn more about that? I suggest you read Mind Over Markets by Dalton. Dalton, I do not know how the man actually trades and makes money. I'm sure he's very good at it, but his work is fantastic. And I've basically taken that work and applied it to day trading, right? So these are the two clear targets above, and we are sitting plumb in the middle of the range. If you'll go back and look at this 1010, 1011, and 1012, this area in particular was very difficult to trade in. We chopped through this whole area, and we're doing that again in this area. Now, the biggest concern for the day was that the market should have rallied relatively easily. NQ was up nicely, and ES was unable to rally. So I'll show you. Here's NQ. We closed near the low. ES, we closed near the low of the day. That's where that red arrow is. Here's NQ. And you can see that it actually closed above value, but it was also an inside day so NQ, while it did go up, was not necessarily bullish or bearish. Why? We've closed inside to Fridays, which was inside Thursday's day, right? Now, if you recall, or if you've been day trading for a long time, you'll know the more that we get stuck inside a prior day's range, the harder it is to trade in that range. When we first break out of the ranges, like on Thursday and Friday, the first 2 days is great. The third day tends to suck. And that's kind of what we had this today, with the exception of this morning. The trading was quite crisp off the lows. Okay, so if you look at ES, it's a different picture. It's just kind of drooping down, right? So how do I figure out what I want to do? Well, the first thing that I'm going to look at for the day is I wanted to know whether we were trading above value area high or value area low. So I got that answer pretty quickly. We were unable to make it above value area high or value area low. And then the next natural resistance points come right at where those volume points of control were from both Thursday and Friday. And we were unable to hold above those, right? And then the other piece that I mentioned is, okay, when you get large swaths of property, see where these lines are coming across up here? These are naked volume points of control above and below. They make great targets, and they also make for great areas to start to look for counter-rotational trades, right? The problem is when you get to big swaths, see how it's all black and there's none there? It opens us up to having huge runs through the area. See how there's not even okay, so these are naked volume points of control back here, but see how they were way spread out. Once we got underneath this volume point of control, it was just a big stretch down into these TPO points of control, and there were no volume points of control. If you don't know what that means, mind over market or send me an email and I'll cover that in a special section at some point in the future. But this particular condition just simply means that we're opened up to rolling to the downside. Okay. Secondly, we're starting to one time to the downside. What does that mean? We cannot trade above prior day's high. It's very easy to see. These are little clues you can have to figure out whether the market's going higher or lower. The inability to trade above prior day's high sets us up in a difficult position. And you can see as soon as we are able to trade above a prior day's high, often it'll rip, right? But until we do, a lot of sell pressure staying in on ES, and they should have been able to lift it today. They simply weren't able to. It actually makes me a little bit concerned. So for today, number one, we were never able to trade above today's value area high, and going into tomorrow, I want to see if we are able to trade above 27.67. Above 27.67, I get bullish, right? And I'm looking for bullish setups on pulls back above that 27.67, or I'm looking for momentum trades on breaks above if they set up to get long. And where am I looking to push? I'm looking to push towards 28.11 if it can make it. We haven't seen any signs of that. On the downside, I'm very concerned about the downside, and I'll actually be what I will need is evidence from my order flow process of trading in order to get longs down here, because there simply is no clear, easy setup until we get down here. You have to figure at 27.12 is the swing low back from the 11th. And you have to figure when we get down there, that'll act as both a good trap location for trades back to the upside, and it'll make a good target even if we eventually break. Now, there's one more very important note down here at the bottom if you're a trader. If we gap down tomorrow morning, let's say we rip the whole area and we're trading 27.15 tomorrow morning. If we are trading 27.15 and we cannot get below that 27.12, and we've trended down all night long, which means your chart looks something like this all night, where we just can't make a counter rotation, right? And we're pushing down into this area. But on the open, we cannot trade to or below that 27.12 1/4. Watch for a short squeeze straight back up. It's very, very common. And I can give you an example of where that happened because we just had it happen a couple of weeks ago. Let me pull this in really quick. And it was right up here. We were at right here. So see how this was the local swing low right here, and it looked like we were going to break down. So let me show you this. So if you look over here and you scoot a little bit to the right, where are we? Where are we? Oh, there it is. Just a drop to the left. So see right in, this was the day right here, I remember. So see this right here? We closed on the low, and if you look at the overnight, we actually opened up. See that A period? We opened up here, and it looked quite bearish. If you look at that chart, right, from the bigger picture, we've been going down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we had a little bounce, and then we gapped down the next morning. And so the key area was watching that swing low over here to the left. So see how we gapped down, and they tried to push below this untested value area low. And as soon as they failed, if you shorted, if you go look at the overnight, it trended down into this area. And as soon as they were unable to break that low, shorts were pushed up, and it was just a beautiful short squeeze to the upside. And I'm looking for that setup now over here. If we get the same thing, meaning the setup there is trend day down overnight or trend down overnight, we open up and we fail to penetrate below the swing low going back to the 10th, I will look for a sharp response back to the upside, even if eventually that does fail. If we gap or we trade underneath when we come in tomorrow, if we are trading underneath this 27.12.25 and we fail to get back above, then of course I'll be looking to press my shorts to the downside. Very, very simple. So notice, okay, so here's the hard part about when people are learning how to trade is that's all a lot of work. Like I just put that together in a couple of minutes, but that's all a lot of work to put together all in one time frame really, really quickly, right? So the question becomes, how do I figure that out in real time for the day, right? And the answer to that is a little bit simpler because I come back over to my profile chart. Here, I'm going to show you this really quick. And when I look at my profile chart from hold on one second, let's get this straight real quick. Chart settings. And this is chart number 5. So I'm going to come back over here really quick. Now, this is a 1.5 range bar, and I use it for order flow. to figure out which way the market's going to trade up or down, right? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do something very simple. I'm just going to scoot over chart number 5, and I'm going to dress up chart number 5, but I'm going to dress it up as if it's for today, right? And I'm going to make a couple notes when I dress that chart up. The number one thing I want to know, and I'm going to put in my notes. So this is important because one of the things that people have difficulty with in day trading is they lose the little tiny picture for the big picture, right? And you can't do that because the big picture dominates the little picture, but the little picture is what gives you the edge. So number one, I'm going to have a line up here like this. That's my value area high. I'm going to have a line like this right here, value area low. So I know two things. In order to go up, I must be trading above value area low. And number two, in order to rally, I must be above my value area high. And then I'm going to have a little zone right in here where the volume point of control is. And I'm just going to make a note on my notepad, right? And in that note, it's going to be, that is the point of control now for 2 days. And it's going to be difficult probably to trade through there because when we get points of control in the same location over multiple days, it just gets sloppy in that area, right? The next thing that I'm going to note that's going to be important for me is I want to look at last week's low. There's Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, right? And I wrote this in the notes to the members last night. If we're not trading below last week's low, right, there really is no downside. So that was our first line in the sand to the downside. We needed to be above. In order to get to constructive, we needed to hold above 27.66. And then in order to break out, we needed to get above 27.87 that we never did, right? So now watch the transition. This is important. Watch the transition over to the small range bars. Over here, I'm looking at the waves, right? And I'm looking where the market is relative to those waves. So watch when I compact this in. This is the whole day right here, right? So notice the two things. Number one, when I came in, here's 8 a.m. or 8:30 roughly, right? It's about right there, right? Close enough for hand grenades, right? And so the first thing that I notice when I come in is I spread that out. Remember, those lines are reminding me what's in the big chart, right? So the first thing I'm going to notice is, hey, we can't make it below last week's low at 27.48. The next thing that I'm going to notice is we're holding below value area low. So I have two concerns here. Number one, I haven't broken down. But number two, sellers are in overall control if we're accumulating underneath here. And then here was the key to this move that eventually rolled us to the downside was once we closed back up, right? If you're thinking through this trading, right? Once we close above this value area low here, we traded in, they attempted to hold, they closed underneath, they balanced underneath, they pushed down. What you wanted to see is once we closed back in, you wanted this backside test to hold for a push to the other end of the range. That should have been pretty easy. Why should have it been pretty easy? First of all, there was a lot of shorts coming out from Thursday and Friday into today, right? So if they were feeling nervous or new money was being pumped in, that would be an easy place to pump the money in and get a push to the upside. Secondly, right, what you didn't want is another consolidation. Even if we closed underneath here, you didn't want a consolidation underneath. When we consolidated underneath, that sealed the deal. You can see there all the way through the course of the day, they just couldn't get it back above that value area. Why is that important? We knew that in order to roll down and break, that we had to get underneath here, right? But in order to rally, we needed to get above here. And this is why neither side, neither longs nor shorts, were able to do much with it once we consolidated underneath here. Everyone wanted to see it underneath last week's low. We couldn't touch last week's low, hence not giving anyone a reason to really generate or want to cover. And we couldn't generate a push above this point of control past the first opening part in the morning, this yellow area. And so we never had a chance to come in and force people to cover their shorts or bring new cash into the market to push it up to 27.87. And I really hope that makes sense because what I'm looking for is once we open up, so I'm going to take it one more step in what I'm looking for, right? Once we open up in the morning, I use so these are waves. I know I'm making it more complicated now, but it's all right. I'm looking for these waves tell me, right, where the market is going, where the market is trapping buyers and sellers. And so I look at those waves, and what that's telling me is cumulatively where the deltas are building within this rotation. And I know two things about this wave to keep it really simple. I know that if I get underneath this wave, see as it builds pre-market, I know that if I get underneath that wave, that was the strongest push up from overnight. We rallied overnight, And I know that that was the strongest push to the upside. You can see it. It's pretty clear there from the time that we got to London Open. That was the strongest push. And you will notice, okay, so now I'm bringing in my daytime profile to my, and I'm getting more localized information to make my trading decision, right? So now once I get underneath right here, see how I'm clearly underneath this rotation? And then we come back over here and we're backside testing. So what are we backside testing? Friday's volume point of control and TPO point of control, the bottom of the biggest rotation. And now I have an additional piece of information. In order to break out, I'm going to have to get above my best rotation up, because otherwise these guys who bought right here are stuck. And then the last clue is out of this wave or this push up, notice how they were unable to break the high off to the left, which was an